Hi there, my name is Bernadette Smith, and I'm a keynote speaker and writer. My pronouns are she and her. Welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I still bring good vibes to DEI. That is, good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a little dash of corporate social responsibility. What I've found is there are lots of news stories about what's going wrong in the world and lots of negative data. But there are also a lot of things going right. That's what I like to focus on. I search for stories that we can be inspired by and learn from. My hope is to inspire you to experiment with some of these actions and policies to help you build a more inclusive world. In this week's episode, I'm joined by Michael Bach, him, author of two best selling and award winning books on IDEA and a Broadway encyclopedia. This week, our conversation is about good vibes globally, signing on to equity, game changing inclusion, and more. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks so much for having me, Bernadette.
It's great to have you. Can you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I have. I've worked in the DEI space now for 20 years. Formerly the head of diversity for KPMG. I was also the deputy chief diversity officer for KPMG International, and then I went and started an organization called the Canadian Center for Diversity and Inclusion, which I ran for 10 years until I abandoned my homeland and moved to Palm Springs, California last year. And my husband and I are enjoying the sun and calmness of a nice little place in Southern California.
You got a little oasis there, that is for sure.
It's a little piece of paradise.
Yeah. So, can you tell folks a little bit about your books?
Yeah, so I have two books in the diversity and inclusion space: Birds of All Feathers, Doing Diversity and Inclusion Right, which is, for lack of a better term, kind of a how-to guide for diversity and inclusion. I decided when I wrote it in 2020 that I was going to give away all the secrets, specifically around how to start on a diversity and inclusion journey and how to progress on that journey. And then in 22, not 2022, excuse me, I released Alphabet Soup, the essential guide to LGBTQ2 plus inclusion at work, which is similar but it focuses exclusively around sexuality and gender. And it's more about how do we create more inclusive spaces for the LGBTQIA plus population.
Awesome. Well, those are great resources for folks. We'll make sure those get put in the show notes. Given the current climate for diversity, equity, and inclusion these days, what advice are you giving to leaders who are struggling how to um, keep it going or not?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question, Bernadette. I think the biggest piece of advice I'm giving is revisit your business case and stay the course. And for years, people have told me that we're past the business case, and I disagree with that fundamentally. I don't think we're past the business case. And if if today is not evidence of that, I can't imagine what is. So companies should just look at their business case. What does the business case say? I'm talking about a tangible document that says, here's why we do this. 1 to 2 pages just explains the why of their focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as long as that still makes sense, stay the course. Keep your head down. Don't get focused by the noise that's happening. Pay attention to what's good for your business, you're good for your organization, and you will succeed.
And what about those companies that are government contractors or whose where or are otherwise subject to executive orders?
This is where you call my favorite person in the world your lawyer. Make sure that you are not breaking the law and you are not doing anything that potentially puts you in a risk position. You can't
Mhm.
do anything to break the law. Whether you agree with the law or not is irrelevant. The law is the law. And particularly when you're a government contractor, where potentially so much of your income is connected to those contracts, you can't screw that up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, talk to your lawyer, look at the wording of the executive orders, and work within them.
Yeah.
I was actually really, talk about one of our positive vibes. Company called Diversio did a bit of a study at all of the companies that had announced they were pulling back from
Mm-hmm.
DEI. And what they found was that only 6 companies had reversed course, and it's the ones we expected: John Deere, Harley Davidson, Tractor Supply, etc.
Mm-hmm.
8 of them, Google, Amazon, Starbucks, were rebranding. So maybe we don't call it DEI anymore. We call it workplace culture. We call it belonging. But another 19 were staying the course.
Yeah.
McKinsey, Cisco, Ben and Jerry's, Edwin Jones, Microsoft, they're just staying the course. And some of those are contractors with the government.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not Ben and Jerry's, although who knows. Um, but they're, I look at that and I think, oh, okay. The news is one thing, and we have
Yep.
to remember that the news cycle is a beast that needs to be fed, but it's usually only fed with stories that get people's attention.
Yeah. The negativity.
Microsoft staying the yeah, it's the negativity. Microsoft staying the course on DEI is not an interesting headline. So we're not hearing those stories, but
Yeah.
they're out there, and it's I would say to CEOs and senior leaders of organizations, take solace in that.
Great. Well, thanks for kicking us off with some good vibes before I even got into this week's good vibes, Michael. Well done. Okay, so in this week's Five Things newsletter, I wrote about some frequently asked questions that I have been receiving from friends, family, colleagues, all about my business. So I've shared some of these on social media. You can check those out. I made a video with some of them, but basically my because people are concerned. How's my business, right? Am I falling apart? And is my business falling apart? And the short answer is that business is definitely down, especially inquiries, but we have a few larger contracts which are holding firm. And so that has been really helpful. So new business is definitely slow. We are doing okay. I'm grateful for that. And I am not planning to rebrand. I am not planning to do any major pivot. I am not going anywhere. I'm not changing the good vibes. I am still committed to this work. I know others think that that's foolish or short sighted or whatever. I think it's short sighted to do a complete rebrand. And so I am here for it. I am in it. And any decision I make will be coming from a place of inspiration, intuition, integrity, and I am not making any fear based decisions. So there we go. Michael, how about you? How are you? Thank you. How are things with your business?
Well, similarly, it anything south of the border is non-existent for me. I mean, I've only been here in the States since May of last year, so I was in the process of starting to build up a business, but it's not going anywhere. That said, I am very blessed and fortunate to have a lot of work still north of the border. And so I am doing speaking engagements across Canada throughout the summer. And the occasional bit of consulting work that I do, I'm still getting calls for that. But it is all north of the border. And like you, I'm not rebranding. I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. I had a serious think about that with myself. And I thought, you know, we're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. If you Google my name, rainbows and unicorns fly out of the screen. There is no way to avoid the fact that I have worked in DEI for 20 years. So to suddenly call it something like workplace culture or HR, beside being completely disingenuous and undervaluing the work that I've done for 20 years, it's not going to fool anybody. Um, I work in a very specific field just as you do, and that isn't going to change. So I have not rebranded. I've taken a deep breath, and I'm going to continue doing the work I do. I'm just going to have to fly across the border a lot more than I expected.
Well, I have no doubt that your authenticity and my authenticity will be rewarded. Keep up the keep up the keep your energy up, folks. It's a long game.
Absolutely.
Keep it
You
up.
know what I you know what I would also say, Bernadette? I am a woman of a certain age. This is not our first rodeo. This is not the first time we have experienced pushback because of the work we do. And when I think about it from my perspective, I've been working in the LGBTQ plus space for Gulp 40 years. And we have fought and continue to fight for our right to exist, let alone for inclusion.
Yeah,
And we will continue to fight. And if we thought we were done with the fight, obviously we're not. And that goes for everybody. And I think what I would say to people is now focus on the inclusion. Don't focus as much on the representation. Focus on making sure that everyone, and I mean everyone, feels part of your organization. They feel valued in what you do. They feel that they belong in your workspace. And that includes straight, white, able bodied men. It
right.
includes Republicans. It includes everyone. Focus on inclusion, make sure people are feeling included. And then we can return to that focus on representation where we may have gaps.
Great advice. Okay, well, let's move into this week's good vibes. All right, the first story this week is about global inclusion, still très chic. So, French companies were threatened by the U.S. administration when the administration demanded they drop all DEI programs or lose government contracts. But instead of folding, France firmly rejected the pressure and affirmed the commitment to equity. They have legal requirements for gender equity on boards and a history of inclusion practices. Also, 77% of Japanese employers are staying the course. So, just like Canada, global momentum is firm. We're not backing down.
Amen.
All right. The
The
second
last thing
story.
you want to do is try to, I was just going to say, the last thing you want to do is try to tell the French to do something. Yeah, they won't.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The second story this week comes from HBO's Max, which broke new ground last night by offering The Last of Us in American Sign Language. So, this is the first HBO original series with an interpreter superimposed on screen. So, season two started last night, but the move actually retroactively includes season one. So, there have been this is the first real example of episodic TV with ASL integrated. 1 million deaf
Awesome.
ASL users in the US. Do you use ASL? Do you know ASL, Michael?
I don't. I do not know any AS. I know a few things: how to say thank you, how to clap. This is how you clap in ASL. But I'm thrilled that HBO Max is using that as part of their integration rather than just closed captioning, because ASL is a different language, and it's such a great opportunity to include people who use ASL in the entertainment experience.
Exactly. I completely agree. All right, and the third story this week comes from the Game Developers Conference, where Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, and Ubisoft unveiled the Accessible Games Initiative, which is a coordinated push to make video games more transparent about how they can support players with disabilities. So, this means that in the digital storefronts, there will be standardized accessibility tags that flag features like large subtitles, narrated menus, customizable controls, so users can decide before purchase whether that game is actually going to meet their needs. But what I especially like is that it was developed with direct input from disabled gamers.
I love it. I love that they're making this change. I love that we are talking about accessibility as part of the DEI conversation, and that it's really just becoming integrated in what we do, so that it's not special. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a different way of doing things. It's a different way of providing things to their players, which is so exciting.
And it should be part of how it's built from the ground up, right? But
Absolutely.
if it's not, it's important to go back and look for those gaps and involve community members while you're figuring out what needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's systemic change right there. Okay. The fourth story this week is about reality star T.S. Madison, who is a black trans woman. She has turned her former Atlanta home into the T.S. Madison Starter House, a safe reentry place for formerly incarcerated Black trans women. So this is run in partnership with local nonprofits. It's a first of its kind Southern initiative that provides holistic support from mental health care to entrepreneurial workshops. And these residents are not honored as stakeholders, which I love that. 47% of Black trans women have experienced incarceration. So this is really significant.
Yeah, I think this is just so fantastic, and I'm thrilled that TS has taken this on and created that space for Black trans women to reintegrate in society. Because if you're not aware, reintegration is difficult at the best of times, but add into it that you're Black and trans, and it can become an overwhelming experience. So I'm thrilled at the initiative.
Yeah, all the dimensions of marginalized identities, right? So, Black,
Yeah,
trans, woman, anything else that can come into play, physical or
yeah.
mental health, all of it, you know? And so these folks are at a lot of risk. And I love this. It's a lift while you climb example.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect.
All right, and the last story this week comes from Hewlett Packard, which is leading the way with parental leave. So, actually, here in the US, which you might be unsurprised to learn, Michael, only 27% of private sector workers have access to paid family leave, and just 6% of low wage workers. But Hewlett Packard employees receive 26 weeks of fully paid care, a soft reentry period, backup childcare, and I mean, amazing support. So it's so important.
This has always been a bit of a goop for me. I come from a country, and I won't even tell you how long people get for paid parental leave,
Oh, come
because
on,
every
tell us.
woman would be. It's 18 months.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
it is 18 months
Wow.
of, now that's not coming from the employer; it's coming from the government. It's a whole thing, but uh, and coming from countries where working in countries where there's extended leave, and when when I came to the United States for the first time 20-30 years ago, to hear that there was no leave or very limited leave was quite surprising to me. So I'm thrilled to hear that HP is doing that and leading the way around family inclusion. We just need more of that.
Absolutely. I mean, it just seems like such a no-brainer. I mean, the
Yes,
amount of loyalty that this would generate from employees, the amount of
huge.
savings on hiring and turnover, like
It's going to be a massive lift for HP. I'm sure what they did was looked around the world at all the other countries that they operated in, and looked at turnover rates and all sorts of data to come up with this. And they realized that yes, providing parental leave is a good thing for our business. So I'm very happy they did it.
yeah. And I think that there is this sort of false choice between career and family as well that women in particular and even men face. And I think this normalizes it as long as people
Absolutely
actually take the leave. But it looks like
right.
most employees take 3 weeks, or women do anyway. So significant.
Fantastic.
All right, so let's move into this week's good vibes to go. I'll share my good vibe to go, and then Michael, I will invite you to share your good vibe to go. So, if you're into the apocalypse, or even if you're not, check out that ASL version of The Last of Us on HBO Max. So, I'm going to watch that with my son tonight. He was a little late for us last night, so we're going to check it out today. But check it out just to see how it looks to have ASL done right. All right, Michael, what is your good vibe to go?
Well, I can't say that it's related to the apocalypse, but my good vibe to go is to do something for your own mental health, your own
Mm,
mental well-being. And I do that by just getting out into the sun. I fortunately live in a community that it's 350 days of sun a year. And I say that with a little sheepishness, but do whatever you need to do to take care of your own mental health, whether that's doing some yoga or watching a TV show, or just sitting and having a nice drink with friends. Whatever you need to do, make sure you're taking care of your mental health.
Yeah, well, for me, it's pickleball and stand-up comedy. So I'm so grateful that I have
Fantastic.
those outlets.
At the same time?
No, but that would be a trick, wouldn't it? I do have some stand-up comedy about pickleball, though, so it's kind of at the same
I
time.
I bet you do.
All right, well, it's been awesome having you on the show, Michael. How can folks get in touch with you?
They can go to my website at michaelbach.com, or they can find me on social media. I am at the Michael Bach on all the social media platforms.
Awesome. Well, it has been a real treat having you today, Michael. And folks, if you don't already get the Five Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Have a great week.